near Fitchburg, and also it's moving north. So this is moving north at about 55 miles per hour. So it does have definitely some speed to it as it's moving along. I'm not seeing much in the way of lightning right now. So here's a look back at the regular radar imagery, and you can see it's really just some really heavy rainfall. And just the way it's looking on the radar has us a little bit concerned. It's very notchy looking. That's a term that we use when we see this kind of indication on the radar of some very heavy rainfall and possible rotation. But this is something that's very close to New Ipswich, moving into southern New Hampshire. So it's not just Massachusetts. It is something that in New Hampshire you should be prepared for. You're obviously seeing the heavy downpours, but of course we're talking about that possibility of rotation as this is moving through. And at this point, I think we have Mike who is back. So Mike, a lot to look at here as we're watching this potential tornado.
Yeah, I was just looking at the speed on this. This is a forward speed on it of 55 miles an hour. So this is moving along almost at highway speed. So it's a very rapid moving cell. So the warning, which is out until 2:45, it may actually have started to move its way right into New Hampshire at this point, because this is where we're looking at it now. So just give you some real estate area here. Leaving the Leominster area, heading up toward Winchendon right now, and now just about ready to move across the border. So the warning actually is just into this area right now. And as we look at it, you can see how it's just so fast it's moving its way up toward the north. Again, we see some rotation based on radar. We don't have any confirmation of it on the ground, but we see these signals happening in our radar systems, and they start to show different swirling patterns. And you see what happens when you get two colors that are kind of different colors right next to each other. That's an indication of whether we're seeing winds moving toward or away from the radar site. And when you have that going on, you have that swirl in the atmosphere. Now, many times we're spotting this many thousand feet in the air, but when we see that rotation up there, we can then translate that down to the ground, and that's where we start to see the possibility of seeing some tornadoes going on. So you're looking at this area towards Ashbury, heading its way up towards New Ipswich. Really, this is the region that I'm most concerned with here, right along about 101. You're looking there. That would be where I'd be most concerned about some action going on. This warning goes until 2:45, but it is so fast moving, I don't know that we'll be in a warning that long. So we're going to keep a close eye on that one. Now, this is the cell, and this is the area that we're talking about with a tornado warning until 2:45. You'll notice how the box just instantly appears whenever we have a warning, and we actually watch these because we may just be dropped into a new warning very quickly. Some of these cells to the south, we're keeping a close eye on those as well. And as you look off toward the west, we're seeing quite a bit of activity as well. Now, if you travel along the Mass Pike, we're seeing a little cell here towards Framingham. It is not severe at this point. We're not looking at severe weather. We're looking at some downpours out there. And that's what will happen. We'll get the downpours, and then all of a sudden they'll kind of flare up. And that's why we get those occasional tornado warnings that are out there. So the whole area is kind of lifting its way northward. And see this band here? That's the one I'm really concerned about this afternoon, as it lifts its way northward and pushes its way in. And all of us are in this severe thunderstorm watch box until 9 o'clock tonight. It is going to be a very busy afternoon. It's going to be a very busy early evening. After midnight tonight, things will settle down dramatically across the area, and we'll look forward to that one. So we're going to switch over to Kellyanne. You have some new information coming in just for us right now.
Yes, Mike. So we're just seeing that the tornado warning has been pushed north. It has been extended and is now pushing north. So I want to take you in on that because the original tornado warning ended at the Massachusetts border, but now they're seeing some indication. When I say there, the National Weather Service, it's seeing indication here on the radar, not on the ground, of possible rotation now starting to move its way north into areas of New Hampshire. And Mike's been saying this all along. This is something that's moving very fast, speed of about 55 miles per hour. So when we show you these towns on the radar and we say it's heading toward you, you need to be prepared now because it is moving quickly as it's moving north, and generally in a north to even northwest direction. So let me take you in. This is the new tornado warning that now extends through areas of New Hampshire. That does include New Ipswich. It includes the Peterborough area and also moving out toward Hancock. So you can see the worst of the storm is actually near the New Hampshire and Massachusetts border. And you can see why as I take you in on the velocity data. So again, this is data that's looking at wind and direction in relation to the radar. And it's not a strong indication of rotation, but unfortunately that's a result of where this is in position to the radar, as it is rather far. But we are seeing some indication, as you can see some lighter color, just moving south and west of New Ipswich. That's the spot I'm watching. I'm going to try to see if I could draw on this so you guys can see. There we go. So that's the spot we're watching right here, where we're seeing some different colors and the darker red, possible rotation. So that's the latest update. I know, Mike, you're seeing some indications on the radar over there too.
Coming through, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The speed of these. We had that initial one go at 55 miles an hour. This latest one now is going at about 40 miles an hour. But typically when we look at thunderstorms, we expect them to be traveling at about 35 miles per hour. So this is moving very, very rapidly, kind of blossomed its way up here right along Route 2. The warning was just at the New Hampshire border, and then since then it has been extended into New Hampshire. We still have this warning until 2:45 for Massachusetts, but I think that probably is going to be dropped because we're seeing really the rotation here around Ringe over towards New Ipswich. And those of you who live in Jaffrey, be very cautious about this. This is going to be moving in really rapidly. You're going to see the skies darkening quickly, probably see some rotation within the clouds, and perhaps even, because based on radar, we may actually have a funnel cloud. If that funnel cloud touches the ground, then it does become a tornado. So this is until 2:30 this afternoon. This is the area most of concern right now. And as you can see, as Kellyanne was pointing out, we're seeing the different colors right there. And that indicates to us of winds at different speeds at different levels. And that rotation is taking place up inside the cloud. Typically, you get it going on up inside the cloud, and then it will start to sag its way out the bottom. You start to see some rotation. It's a funnel cloud. You'll see a wall cloud in there, and then the funnel cloud will tip to the ground. Once it touches the ground, then it does become a tornado. So this is the area that we're watching right now. It's all in a tornado warning right now till 2:30 here, till 2:45 here. But this area is, although severe, it does not look like it has the rotation that this area does that we're looking at as we look into parts of southern New Hampshire. And Erica, you have some more information for us as well.
Well, and just want to remind folks that when we stay on television like this, because there's a tornado warning, it means really a tornado could touch down anytime, as Mike has said. And so there is action that you should be taking right now if you see that your town is within the box. That includes going to the lowest level of your home or the center or interior of your home. If you have an interior hallway, if you're on the road and you're hearing this, get out of the car. Or if you're in a mobile home, get out of the mobile home. Go to the lowest spot possible that you can find, whether that's a ditch. Make sure that you have a mobile device with you so that you can keep track of what's going on. But again, this does mean it's time to take action. The watch is that conditions could sprout a warning, and now we are in this tornado warning until it seems 2:45. Although, Mike, you're saying now the risk really appears to be across the border, and those are the towns where people should be actually taking action.
That's right, Erica. I mean, it's going to be a very dynamic afternoon that we're talking about. We have so many of these things going on. We had several tornado warnings this morning. Now, we issue these warnings because we see it on radar. Doesn't mean we actually see it on the ground. And many times we can see stuff that's staying up in the clouds and doesn't actually touch the ground. So I think we're going to be seeing many, many of these tornado warnings, probably more this afternoon than you would typically see in an entire summer across the area. And that's just because the nature of a tropical system like this, it's all these individual thunderstorms that are capable of producing spin-ups like this. So here is the area that we're talking about right now till 2:45 for this side of the border, and then you cross the border and it's until 2:30. But really, this is the area that I'm most concerned with rotation taking place, and there's still some very strong thunderstorms there. So as you look just to the west of New Ipswich, headed into Jaffrey, this, by the way, is moving to the north now at about 40 miles per hour. So it's moving very, very rapidly. Already in a Temple, we'll be in Jaffrey shortly. Ringe, you're looking at it just on the eastern suburbs, and as you look down towards Ashby, also another strong cell sitting there at this point. Not seeing so much rotation with that one right now. I'm really seeing more of the rotation right in through here, but certainly there's enough instability in the atmosphere. We're going to continue that tornado warning for a little bit longer, even south of the border. So you see what's happening. Here are the strong cells that are right through here. They're lifting their way northward. Typically, when we look at thunderstorms this time of year, they go from west to east. But remember, this is all wrapping around a tropical system. So we have this moisture lifting its way up, all of this energy pushing its way in. And remember, a tropical system is just literally dozens and dozens of individual thunderstorms working together as a perfect heat engine, and each of those thunderstorms is capable of producing severe weather, which is why we have this warning until 2:45. We have this warning until 2:30, and I would expect that this actually may be lifted even more and head up towards a little bit farther north of Keene as well, because it is moving so fast at this point. As you look out through parts of Vermont, we're seeing some very heavy rains and some downpours and thunderstorms as well. So as I look at this area here from Fitchburg up through Ashbury, it does show perhaps a little bit of rotation with it, but not nearly as much as what we see just across the border. But we're going to hold on to this tornado warning for a little bit longer, till 2:45. I think everything will be out of that box by 2:45, but right now we'll keep the warning going just because we're still seeing a little bit of that rotation taking place. again, it'll be lifting its way to the north. Now, many times what happens is we're focused on one area, and we have to kind of look around the area because there may be something additional that's being added to that. So this is the area around Route 2, north of Leominster, we're talking about, up through Ringe. And then as you look west of Orange, boy, this area around Greenfield, we're going to keep a close eye on that one too, because that is showing some signs of really getting powerful out there. Now, as you travel down to the south, see these are bands of thunderstorms right here. It gets lighter rain as you get through Southbridge. We had this little area here that was towards Framingham. And again, we're always used to things pushing this way. In this case, it's all lifting this way. So that area around Framingham, 495 there, not really showing too much with it, but occasional downpour. But here's that line I really want to keep a close eye on. See that right through there? What it is the main storm is back here. It's picking up all this moisture, and we're starting to pick up a lot of lightning and thunder offshore as well. And it's taking all of that energy, and it's going to be lifting its way up. That's the band that I'm most concerned with that's going to be moving through as we talk about in the next hour or so. All of us are in this tornado watch box until 9 o'clock tonight. The center of the storm is out here, but remember, you don't want to focus so much on the center. You want to focus on all the bands that are around it. And the nature of these is such that we get a band of rain, and then a break, and then a band of rain. And one of those bands can be severe, as we've seen with that tornado watch box that's been issued. Now, right now, the maximum sustained winds at the center are 65 miles an hour as it moves its way to the north-northeast at 40 miles an hour. So this is a very fast-moving system, and these thunderstorms are very fast as well. That initial tornado warning that we had up in Middlesex County, northern Worcester County, that was actually moving at over 50 miles per hour. It is now slowed down to 40 miles per hour, which is basically the speed of this storm right now. So the center of it is right here. Very heavy rains out here to the west that we've been dealing with, and we're going to deal with more. So the actual track of the storm will keep it just west of Albany. Should be in this position about 8 o'clock tonight with maximum sustained winds around 60 miles per hour. But again, those bands extend all the way out, and that's why we're in that tropical storm warning as we head through the evening. Rain-wise, this is a general model prediction of what's going to happen. Lighter amounts here, much heavier rains off to our west. But if you get into one of those downpours, you can instantly get 1 inch or 2 inches of rain very, very quickly. One of the things we don't usually see from these storm systems is hail being developed. All right, how about the actual tropical storm winds that we're talking about? Let me show you what's going to happen to those. 4 o'clock this afternoon, they're starting to really ramp up, especially out toward the west. Closer to the storm, stronger the winds are going to be. Now, these are tropical storm winds. When we have a severe thunderstorm, we can actually have downbursts of wind that come out of those. It could easily exceed this. They could go in the 50 and 60 mile per hour range. But in terms of the general storm circulation, this is when we'll see the very strong winds out here. They're going to lift their way northward as that system lifts its way north. And then probably around midnight, those winds will back off. And along with it, it's going to take the moisture, it's going to take the energy, and it's going to take everything on out of here. And that will be moving out, and we won't be dealing with that one anymore. So that's where the heaviest rains will be on a larger scale, but on a very specific scale, they could be in an isolated thunderstorm and be stuck in one of those. Of course, lightning and thunder along with that, and of course, as we've seen, the occasional spin-up that's going to be taking place as well. In addition to that, we have flood warnings down here where they have picked up torrential amounts of rain that we've been dealing with, and we're still in a flood watch for most areas west of Worcester County just because of what's been going on out there. You'll see what happens. This tracks its way as we head through the evening hours, and then we'll kind of wind it down a little bit as we head towards late evening till around midnight tonight. And we're going to go over to Kellyanne, I believe, right now. Meteorologist Kellyanne Chicalise, a little bit more. What's going on out there?
Thank you, Mike. Yes, one of the most important things to look at when we talk about tornado warning is trying to find an area where we have some rotation. And really the best tools for that is our Doppler velocity. And this is showing where we're seeing wind moving toward and away from the radar. So typically in a perfect scene, you would see green in one location, red in another, indicating green wind coming toward the radar, red, that's wind moving away. Well, in this situation, because where we're seeing this possible rotation so far from the radar site, we are seeing dark red, but also some of the lighter shades of even tan to even white color. So that's what we're dealing with at this point. So it's difficult to see as we're taking a look at the radar imagery, but bear with me here as I kind of highlight some of the spots that are just looking a little bit concerning at this point. So at this moment right now, we're watching the Peterborough area, and I'll show you why. As we take a zoom in, there's some dark red just to the west of Peterborough, but see all that white that's starting to mix in? And that's just some weak indication of possible rotation. This is really difficult to find when we're looking at the radar because we're so far from the radar site, but it is something that's showing possible rotation. So as far as where you need to be prepared, If you're in the Peterborough area, please, if you can, find safety. And when I say safety, get away from windows, try to get into an interior room. If you have a basement, of course, that is the best scenario, but as long as you can get into an interior room, that is your best option. We are seeing very heavy rain as this wind and rotation is moving through, and so unfortunately, with any rotation and possible tornado, it may be difficult to spot. So unfortunately, you need to really take warnings that we're providing you, because it may be difficult for you to physically see it as you're looking out your windows. We are seeing incredible downpours and rainfall rates that are making this, possible rotation and possible tornado difficult to see. So as I take you closer in, you can see this is 101. And just north of that is where we're seeing that possible rotation. Happy Valley, if you're familiar with that area, North Village, moving north, so moving toward the Greenfield area. Hancock, another spot where you need to be prepared. Get into a basement now. Moving up toward Antrim, that's another area where rotation is moving toward you. Again, this is not being confirmed at the ground. This is possible rotation that's being indicated by the radar, looking at what we're looking at this moment right now. Also, I want to take you south because there's still some indication of weak rotation moving just south and west of New Ipswich. I'm going to get my little tool here so I can circle the area so you can see what I'm looking at. Here we go. So moving just north of 119, moving toward New Ipswich, just west of New Ipswich, that's the spot we're watching right now still. Again, all areas, as I take this zoom out, under a tornado warning right now until 2:30 p.m. through areas of New Hampshire, until 2:45 p.m. through much of Massachusetts. This is moving incredibly fast. I just checked the latest speed of these storms, and it looks like it's actually up to 70 miles per hour. So that's really concerning, because if you do not take preparations now, if you're not moving as quickly as possible to a safe spot, it may be too late. So we are not seeing any confirmed tornado on the ground at this moment, but this is being indicated by radar. I want to take you into a look at the radar. In fact, as we look at what's going on in northern Massachusetts, it's not as concerning. As you can see, the storm itself is starting to move north. So I will say, if you're in the northern Massachusetts portion of this warning, it seems like you are getting out of the worst of it. But moving into New Hampshire, it is definitely stretching through. We have New Ipswich, Peterborough, now moving up toward the Hillsborough area even. I would start to take precautions now as this tornado warning does extend through your area. And just a couple things of note, because we are under the influence of Tropical Storm Isaias. And so I just want to remind everyone, even if you're not within this tornado warned area, the tornado threat is something we're watching region-wide. All that yellow is indicating a 2 out of 5 scale threat for our area. So this is something all afternoon and through tonight we will have to monitor for, and it's unfortunately going to be a very active day for us. And with that said, I'll send it over to Mike Wancombe.
Yeah, this is very interesting to watch these storms developing. Of course, we've got this area here. Now, I do expect this warning to be expired here very shortly. In fact, just as we spoke, they just dropped it. So there is no longer a tornado warning out for the state of Massachusetts. This is now issued just for New Hampshire. And you can see these 3 cells that are working their way toward the northeast now, moving at about 40 miles per hour. So this is the warning that we have in effect. It's still in effect for about another 7 minutes or so until 2:30, and it will continue to lift its way northward. So that's the region that we're watching. 1, 2, 3 cells. And that's the nature of these. You get one downpour and then a break and then another downpour just a little ways away from it. So these are the cells that you have around Rindge right now. Peterborough, from Jaffrey to Peterborough up to almost Dublin. This is the strongest one right now, and this is the midst of the warning until 2:30. As I look at this right now, I still am seeing some rotation going on with it, but I think at 2:30 it probably will be allowed to expire. We're going to hang on to it just to make sure that that is actually what's going to happen. Now, as we're watching this area, and this isn't a warning, remember I was talking about this little area out here towards Greenfield? We're keeping a close eye on that one. All right, so here's the rotation that we're looking at in here. You see the color differences, right, indicating that there possibly is some rotation within the cloud. But over here towards this area, out towards Greenfield, I've been picking up a little bit of rotation with it as well. Now, there is no warning out for it at this point, and it's more of a broad rotation than anything else. It's not a tightened one like a tornado. but certainly we're going to be keeping a close eye on that one. Now, Erica, we are talking about tornadoes around here, at least tornado warnings at this point, but down south, they've actually had some actual touchdowns going on. That's earlier today where it was very active as well.
Yeah, numerous tornadoes, and of course, at least one death is being blamed on a tornado that hit a mobile home park in North Carolina, which is where Isaias actually came on to land as a hurricane earlier today. What you're seeing on the left of your screen, this is Halifax near the Plimpton town line. Just an idea of how strong the winds are. A tree down on a car here. Luckily, no injuries are reported, but we have seen to our south, as the storm has made it up through the East Coast, a large amount of damage. So this is a scene in Virginia. You can see this house completely off the ground, trees down, power out in a number of communities. Our own Governor Baker, saying that utility crews are on standby here in case we're dealing with scenes like this. Again, we've already seen some trees down, but this is what happened earlier on with the storm. Now, rain, not as much of a concern as Storm Team 5 has been saying here, but we have seen flooding to our south, just outside of Philadelphia. There was an area of Pennsylvania completely flooded, and there it is. Cars just submerged under an overpass. And I know there is a flash flood watch for part of the area, correct, Mike?
Correct. West of Worcester, we have a flash flood watch, but we've had warnings down in these areas here. I mean, the torrential rains that come down and any low-lying area fills up with water very quickly. It tends to be more urban flooding. We've been basically in a drought, so we could actually use some beneficial rains out of this one. We would look forward to having some of those rains. It looks like, though, it's more street and urban because there's no place for the water to go, and it just fills up very, very quickly out there. The other thing that's interesting about the nature of these tornadoes that are associated with tropical storms, you may be used to seeing a tornado that spins up out of a big thunderstorm, and it's on the ground for a long time, as we saw in Revere, as we saw it in Munson. Remember the Springfield tornado we had a few years ago, where they're on the ground for a long time. The nature of these tornadoes from a tropical system is they're really quick. They're little, they're quick, they hit fast, and they're gone. And so that's why we have to depend on radar a lot of times to see what's happening with them. We can see the rotation going on. We don't have anyone on the ground that may be able to report into us and say, yes, there is a tornado on the ground at this point, but based on what we see on radar, we issue these warnings. And that's why this warning is out until 2:30. So just another few minutes. We're going to hang with this one just to make sure that it is cleared actually at 2:30. There still is 1, 2, 3 little cells that are kind of working their way through. The one in Ringe is now lifting its way towards Jaffrey. So Jaffrey, you got hit, had a little break. Now you're getting another one right in behind it. And I want to alert you to the fact that even though we're talking about Jaffrey, New Hampshire at this point, this same scenario can pop up just about anywhere. I would say especially west of 495 at this point. So if you kind of watch and see how they're behaving and look at what they're doing, very quick moving, very quick spin-ups, very quick to exit out of the area. Pay attention to how they're behaving because that may be developing in your area as we head later this afternoon into this evening. It's going to be a very busy evening for us, I think, with severe thunderstorms that are out there. So these are the two cells right now, headed towards Dublin at this point. Peterborough, you've got a little bit of a break right now, but Jaffrey, you're going to get this one pretty quickly. Oh, still seeing some rotation right in here. This may actually get extended a little bit. We'll keep an eye on that one as we go till 2:30 this afternoon. So this is the cell that we're talking about right now, and also as you look off to the west, we're still seeing quite a bit of activity there. All of the tornado warnings for Massachusetts have been allowed to expire at this point. This is the only one in effect until 2:30 this afternoon. Now, as you look off toward the west, we're seeing a band of showers in green, downpours there, by orange, and then west of Greenfield, we've been watching these cells as well. No warnings associated with those right now, but certainly some downpours, and certainly something we're watching to see if any rotation could develop. What we look at on this velocity scan is when we start to see different colors coming next to each other, it tells us that up in the clouds, things are moving. We're actually tracking raindrops. A bunch of raindrops are going this way, a bunch of raindrops are going this way. You probably have some type of rotation. And it may be going up several thousand feet into the air and then eventually kind of work its way out and out of the bottom. And that's why we worry about tornadoes. So these warnings really are based on radar reports at this point. We don't have an observer on the ground telling us that that's what's happening, but certainly what we're watching. So as you head over towards Worcester, some light rain right now. Framingham, little cell there, kind of weakened. It was looking a little stronger about half an hour ago. And then as you west of Palmer, out towards Springfield, again, some very heavy cells. Keep in mind, these are not going this way, which is the typical way for us to get thunderstorms. These are all lifting to their way to the north because they're rotating around that tropical system now. And this is the band offshore that I really want to keep an eye on. We're picking up some lightning offshore. We're picking up some downpours all offshore. It's only impacting the ocean right now, but as this pivots its way in and moves its way in here, that's something we'll be looking at as we head through the afternoon hours. All of us are in a tornado watch box until 9 o'clock tonight. A watch box means conditions are favorable for severe thunderstorms in and close to that area, including, in this particular case, that tornado warning was just issued as well. Tropical storm is still sitting well off to our west. Let's go back and take a look at what's going on with some of the radars closer to home. We still have that warning into effect until 2:30, so another about a minute and a half. I'm going to keep an eye on that one as it lifts its way toward the north. And again, those isolated cells that are over there. Let's switch over to meteorologist Kellyanne Chicalise, and you're tracking a little bit more on that storm as well.
Yeah, so we're counting down. This current warning is going to expire at 2:30. The concern is that perhaps they might need to push that north and extend it. So that would be within the next minute or so. And what we're watching is that one area of rotation that is just starting to move north of the Hillsborough area. So even though we're not seeing that warning extended out toward Bradford right now, if you are in Bradford, New Hampshire, the motion of the storm right now is 60 miles per hour moving north. So where we're seeing some indication of rotation, where you can see that white and red, and I will circle it so you have a better sense of what I'm talking about. There we go. You can see that it is moving north toward the Bradford area, also toward Newberry. So I would start to take shelter at this point if you're in the Bradford, Box Corner, Newberry area right now. You are not under the warning, but when we see rotation just to your south, heading north in your direction, there's nothing that's really blocking it from moving north. So you are in that path of possible rotation and even tornado. So right now this rotation is at cloud level. It is not at the ground. We are not seeing any ground truth just yet, but there's a high likelihood that a funnel cloud will form out of this rotation. We also have some indication of some rotation, possibly tornadic, moving out toward the Hancock area. You can see that right now with the white and red on your screen. Antrim is a spot that you do need to take shelter as this area starts to move north. I will circle so you can see once again. Hancock area is a place where we're likely seeing some sort of rotation, possibly hitting the ground. And it is moving north. So Antrim, that's the next spot where I really want you to take shelter. You need to take this serious as we are watching this heavy rainfall moving through with this as well. Good news for you folks in northern Massachusetts. You are now out of that possible indication of rotation. But of course, we are watching this through this afternoon and evening as there is a high likelihood of possible tornadoes trying to form. And you know, when we talk about tornadoes with this heavy rainfall, Mike, it's just so difficult for you to see. So unfortunately, it's just one of those things where you have to take the radar for truth because it is difficult to see with your own eyes.
Absolutely. And I will tell you right now, the tornado warning has been allowed to expire there in New Hampshire. We're not seeing the rotation that we had seen earlier today. And so all tornado warnings are now done. We're going to continue to watch these cells that work their way northward through parts of New Hampshire. And as you look out toward the west, we're seeing some heavy downpours as well. Some new areas down to the south, especially around the Hartford and Springfield areas, are showing quite a bit of activity as well. All of this because that tropical system is moving in. We're interrupting program whenever there's a tornado warning. I will guarantee you we are going to be back later on this afternoon with more updates as we continue to monitor this system as it works its way to the north very, very rapidly. Stay tuned. We'll keep you posted.